Let me try that again. Hello there, everyone. Do you enjoy the cookies, the cake? Or were you all kind of on the sickly brownies? Brownies not for me. So, final block of sessions now. We've got 3 more. Then we'll do kind of a final changeover so that everybody can kind of get back in here for our wrap-up at the end, which this year is going to be a panel. So we kind of get a bit of a kind of a consensus on the topics of the day. But first up, though, to kick off this final block, we've got Nicole Donnelly, and she's the founder of DMG Digital, a manufacturing marketing agency dedicated to helping solo marketers succeed. Now, Nichole is a mum, marketer, speaker, and podcaster who has dedicated the last 20 years to creating exceptional customer experiences. And as a 4th-generation entrepreneur, Nichole loves celebrating entrepreneurship and American manufacturing. Now, she's here to share a different perspective on one of the topics of today, which is transformation. Please give a big round of applause from the US for us today, Nichole.
Oh my gosh, I have to start off and say this is my 3rd Meet Magento event, and I'm fairly new to this community, and I just have to say how much I love the people in this community. So inclusive, so generous and kind, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of it and to be here today. So this is Apollo and Daphne. This is my absolute favorite sculpture. Raise your hand if you've seen this sculpture or know the story. Yes, right on. A few of you do. It's by Bernini. And the way the story goes is Apollo, the god of reason, he happens upon Cupid after slaying a monster. So he's feeling pretty proud of himself, and he insults Cupid's beloved bow. How dare he? And Cupid, he doesn't take so kindly to that, so he decides to retaliate. He shoots Apollo with a golden love arrow that causes him to fall madly in love with the nymph Daphne. But Cupid doesn't stop there. No. He also shoots Daphne with an arrow, a lead-tipped arrow, an arrow that causes her to be absolutely repelled by Apollo. She wants absolutely nothing to do with him. She can't get far enough away from him. So, lesson learned, folks. Don't mess with Cupid. You think he's the god of love? Not so lovely, right? So here you have her in this final, penultimate moment of chase, when in utter desperation, she calls out to her father, the river god, and begs him to turn her into a laurel tree. And you can see her in the middle of this instant transformation. Her arms are stretching out into branches. Her fingers are stretching into leaves. I mean, look at her face. You can see this amazing combination of terror combined with utter relief that she's finally free. So I want you guys all to close your eyes for a minute and just imagine you're in the middle of a project, or imagine a project that you're working on right now. Maybe you are in the discovery phase and you can't seem to get that ornery stakeholder to buy into eCommerce. Or maybe you are banging your head against the wall trying to get the requirements so you can start building. Or maybe you're in the middle of a project and the requirements just keep shifting like sands in the hourglass, and you can't seem to keep the project on budget or on schedule. Just imagine if you could, in that moment, just call out to the e-commerce gods, and in an instant, all that pain and tension and suffering would all just go away, right? That ornery stakeholder would come to the next meeting with a big smile on his face, and he'd say, "Wowzer! Oh my gosh, e-commerce is amazing. Where do I sign up?" You'd finally get the requirements for the store, or that client would come with the big blank check and say, "Anything you need, it's yours." So I have worked with a number of B2B manufacturers over the years, and the reality is that digital transformation is fraught with uncertainty. We know this. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes people, and often it takes a lot of people. And And in B2B, that complexity increases even further. And from my experience working with B2B manufacturers over the years, I have noticed a pattern. I like to call it the change journey. You see, there's typically 5 phases of change that people navigate through anytime they're going through digital transformation. And I'm going to show you these phases. I don't want to see how good you are. I want to see how well you know each of these phases. So I want you guys to help me out, okay? I'm going to show you. If you know the phase, you can feel free to call it out as we go through, okay? So this first phase, it looks a little like this. Yeah, this is never going to work at our company. Nope. We're different. Our customers like to call us. They don't want to do e-commerce. Any ideas? What do you guys think? Resistance. This is the resistance phase, which then leads to the next phase, which looks a little like this. Oh my gosh, e-commerce is amazing. Technology is going to solve all of our problems. Everything is going to be faster and easier, and all of our pain and suffering is going to go away. This is the excitement phase, which every excitement phase inevitably leads to the next phase, which looks a little like this. Oh, man. How am I going to get all this product data together? Oh, my gosh. Images, specs, shipping rules, weights and dims. Oh, my gosh. This was so much easier in discovery. This is the frustration and overwhelm phase. And every frustration and overwhelm phase leads to the next phase, which is the adoption phase. And this is like lifting heavy weights over and over and over and over and over and over again until finally, after you've done it 50 billion times, you reach the integration phase, which is like the holy grail. This is when e-commerce has become just part of the way you do business. Everyone across the organization is aligned, and it becomes just second nature. So this is what it looks like. And I liken this to my 2 daughters who are learning to play the piano. Anyone here have kids learning to play a musical instrument? Yes, if you know, you know. They have all navigated through these 5 phases, and it has been a real bear over the years. They've gone through the resistance phase, they've been through the excitement phase, they've been through frustration and overwhelm, they've definitely been through the adoption phase, and we're still waiting for the integration phase to come. And today, I want to walk you through this change journey from the perspective of one of our clients, US Air Filtration, a B2B manufacturer in the US. And I'm going to walk through some of the challenges inherent at each of these stages and propose solutions that will help you create revenue-producing relationships with even your most complex clients. So let's get started. So phase 1, this is like the Berlin Wall. It takes decades of Cold War strategy to get through. The reality is, it is human nature for people to be resistant to change. Studies have shown that there's an uncertainty bias, which shows that anytime someone encounters something new or novel in their environment, their first reaction is likely to be negative, even if you're the most positive person on the planet. So it's really important for us to normalize that this resistance is actually a step forward in the change management process rather than a step backwards. And there's 2 things that you can do to help navigate through this first resistance phase. The first is you've got to be inclusive. You've got to make sure that you have a representative stakeholder from every department part of the planning process. Nobody wants the project to be derailed halfway through. And the second thing is it's so important to do a needs assessment, a customer and employee needs assessment up front. No client is ready, no merchant, no customer, no one is ready for e-commerce without first hearing from the customers and the employees who are going to be experiencing the change, not just the executives. I learned this the hard way. When I first started working with US Air Filtration, I came into the executive team meeting just with all the reasons why we needed to invest in e-commerce. And I had no context for how to make it work with their unique business constraints. And I was met with death stares. The sales team was worried about becoming obsolete. This is B2B, like this is legacy B2B we're talking about here, okay? The operations team was skeptical about how it was gonna work with shipping and logistics. And the executive team was concerned about the pricing model. How are we gonna publish pricing without upsetting our existing customers? So it took me a while to realize that I needed to stop and take a step back and listen. So that's what we did. We conducted qualitative and quantitative research with customers and employees, and we asked a lot of questions, and we learned so much through this process. We learned that when employees are respected and their concerns are heard and validated, rather than dismissed or worse, ignored, resistance drops. We learned that when customers are valued and respected enough to be part of the process, they will provide crucial insights that will help improve the store. I don't know what happened to my mic, I was just talk louder. And we also learned something that's really important for B2B, and that is how important it is to respect them. We see these legacy manufacturers, they're used to a very traditional way of selling. And e-commerce is like a completely different language to them, but in retail. It's a very similar. And so when we are asking questions of customers and employees, the most important question that we learned wasn't what was going wrong, but what was going right. What was going right? What was it they really loved about Wilkie Coupon? We noticed what they loved most was the relationship they had with their sales reps. This was the grand tradition that this company had been built on, these relationships. And so now we realize that in order for us to have this be successful, we needed to elevate the sales reps and position e-commerce. Here we go. We needed to, oh, that's so much better, guys. Oh my gosh. I hope you can hear me better because I was, whew. Okay, we needed to position e-commerce as a support to the sales team rather than a competition to the sales team. And once we did that, resistance started to drop because we had identified that thread of tradition that would ground people through the change. And the other thing we realized through this process is that customers wanted the convenience of being able to order online through a buyer's portal. And when we showed this data to the leadership team, even the most resistant folks in the room took notice because it's very difficult to argue with data. So we made it through the resistance phase, and now we're in excitement. And this is when expectations are high, momentum is high, and it's really important to galvanize the team and get them excited. And so there's two things to do during this phase. The first is to make sure you craft a compelling vision for change. What is the why of why we're doing this change? That's what people want to know. That's what's going to help them when it gets hard, to have something to hold on to. That has to be a really solid why. And use the needs assessment to inform this why so that it's informed directly from your customers and employees. The second thing is to lay out an e-commerce roadmap for training. As I mentioned earlier, there is a steep learning curve in B2B e-commerce, especially for these small to mid-sized companies who don't have the expertise, and they need support from the beginning to understand how this new way of selling works. And so it's important to set those milestones for training very early on. Okay, this is the phase we all love to hate: overwhelm and frustration, right? This is what this looks like in my house when my girls are learning to play the piano. All kinds of contortions, like they can bend their body in all kinds of ways, just complaining about how they don't want to practice, slamming their hands on the keyboard, hurling statements at me along the lines of, "I hate this, Mom, why are you making me do this?" It's real fun. If anyone has figured out how to avoid this or what you've done, I'd like to talk to you afterwards and you can tell me all your secrets. But what I tell them whenever I met with this frustration, possible. It's impossible to learn, to grow, to transform without experiencing discomfort. It's not possible. So, and I'm doing really comfortable right now, right? You're doing good. Oh, good. Are we okay back there? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. It's impossible to learn, to transform, or to grow without experiencing discomfort. And it's important as partners that we normalize this for our clients and customers and let them know up front that it's going to be hard. This is going to be funky. It's not going to be an easy road. But we're going to get through it together. We're going to say that to them up front. The easier it's going to be. It's like when you're on a plane and there's turbulence and the pilot comes on, the intercom, and he tells you what's going on, it kind of releases that anxiety. I'm not saying that. But the important thing also to remember is you want to reduce the amount of time that your client or merchant spends in that frustration phase. Because the danger is the longer they stay in frustration, the more likely it is they're going to quit. And they're not going to make it to the integration.
Not.
So, what's the solution? Training and education. Training and education. I was curious about the state of B2B e-commerce and training in particular. So I asked solutions integrators a whole bunch of questions. I sent a survey out. And nearly 200, oh, it's back. Oh my gosh, thank you. Nearly 200 responded. And as you look at these next slides I'm going to share, I want you to, if you're an integrator, I want you to look at the slides and ask yourself how your company falls on each of these. And it's really interesting. So let's take a look. This first slide is, I asked them what percentage of new business is coming from B2B. And this clearly shows that demand for B2B is pretty significant. And we know that the calculated annual growth rate for B2B e-commerce is projected to be 22% over the next 10 years. This market is ripe for transformation. This next slide shows what are the most frequently requested requirements from B2B e-commerce. And as you look at this, you can see these requirements are complex. The most commonly requested requirement from B2B customers is having the customer pricing groups, ERP integration. These are not, these buyer portal solutions that B2B customers want are complex. So this next slide, I asked them, what topics are you training your merchants on? And of course, the majority reported training customers on the admin panel. Makes sense. But less than 50% of SIs were training clients on core e-commerce basics like e-commerce terminology, how to set up a sales adoption plan, how to set up your internal e-com ops team. And the next question I asked was, how many hours are you including in your contracts for training? And a significant number reported less than 5 hours of training. This data paints an illuminating picture. I see this and I think, oh my goodness, B2B, demand for B2B is increasing, the needs are complex, and there is such a massive opportunity for SIs to provide more value and help their clients meet that complexity because they need the help. So if you want to see the full report, you can download it. There's actually a full guide that has like a e-commerce roadmap for B2B that goes into more detail about each of these phases and steps to take. And it also has more data on all of the survey that I captured. And it'll be at the end of the slide too. Okay, so what is the solution? The solution is an e-commerce coach. Someone who can stand in the shoes of the SI and the shoes of the client and bridge the gap. If you think about the qualities of a great coach, they're positive, enthusiastic, supportive, goal-oriented. Now, the function of this person is to help make sure training happens and liaise to the technical team to make sure that, the client is getting, upskilled on what's going on. They're there to be the therapist, the change management therapist, and they're there to set and celebrate key milestones. So My challenge to you is to think about how can you empower your clients and your teams, how can you incorporate this function into your teams? Because the more training that these clients have, the more empowered they will be. Empowered people are calm, empowered people are confident, empowered people are collaborative, empowered people make progress and see the bigger picture. We want empowered merchants because the more empowered they are, the more successful their stores are going to be, and the more successful we will be. So the next phase is the adoption phase, and this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where it's so important that everyone starts practicing by doing. And it needs to happen across the organization. Performance marketing in B2B just simply isn't enough. You really have to make sure you have alignment across the whole organization. So it's important to set adoption KPIs up front. What does success look like? This could be tiering your existing customers, for example, setting it up so that your lower orders, those customers that repeat those lower value orders, are handled completely through e-commerce, whereas your high value customers, your VIP customers, still get that white glove service, and being very intentional and strategic about how you handle those customers. This also includes creating an on-demand training library with SOPs and training videos that your internal employees can use and access that will help them adopt, but that you can also share through marketing campaigns with your customers, their customers' customers, so that they can learn how to use the store. Because not only are your internal employees having to adopt, but customers are too. So how can you nurture them through that journey? The next step is to think about what kind of sales initiatives and incentives can you create to help get your sales team on board and involved in getting people on e-commerce. And creating a feedback loop, I found, has been very important. At US Air Filtration, we meet regularly with their sales team. And we ask for their feedback. We want to hear directly from them. What are they hearing from customers? We're there to listen and see what the challenges are, what are the requests that they're having, and that information helps guide future dev needs. It also helps us know how we can communicate the store better to customers. And then, of course, sales enablement marketing workflows really help the sales team by supporting them and providing additional opportunities while they're working with their offline sales. The key here is that e-commerce, it has to be something that's no longer just this thing on the side, right? But that it's incorporated into the way that they do business. And so that offline sales and online sales are all handled through the store, and it becomes commerce. So this is the 5 phases of change again. Yay, we made it. We made it all the way to the integration phase. You're almost done with me, and my mic is still here. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. Sheesh. So we can all do the happy dance, right? Everybody's made it to integration. And these are my daughters at their piano recital. And thankfully, they did not slam their hands on the keyboard or hurl statements at me. They played beautifully. And while I was listening to them play, I couldn't help but remember all of those painful moments they had when I literally had to sit next to them and help them note by note while they had tears in their eyes. And I realized they wouldn't have made it there without the support of my husband and I. Our merchants, our clients are the same, especially in B2B. They need partners who are going to sit beside them and show them rather than just do it for them or expect them to know. Empower them, listen to them, help them, teach them, and watch them soar. Because e-commerce is about so much more than building great software. It's about people. It's about relationships and cultivating those relationships. And it's about helping them win. Because when they win, we all win. Thank you so much.